Something massive just happened. A Supreme Court decision that quietly rewrites the rules for how your rights, your citizenship, and even your day-to-day life are protected or not. And here's the shocking part. Most people don't even realize how serious this is. Because this isn't just about politics. It's not just about Trump. This is about whether the government can strip rights away, based entirely on where you live. And yes, this includes whether your own children are considered U.S. citizens at birth. So here's what just went down. The Supreme Court ruled by a 6-3 vote that lower federal courts are no longer allowed to block a federal policy for the entire country, unless it's part of a certified class action lawsuit. Sounds technical, right? But what it really means is this. If the federal government passes something controversial, a single lawsuit in one state can't stop that policy from going into effect everywhere else. If your state wasn't involved in the lawsuit, the rule still applies to you, and that's where things get wild. The very first impact. Birthright citizenship, something that's been a bedrock of America for over 150 years, is suddenly under threat in more than half the country. Trump's executive order, the one that tries to block citizenship for babies born in the U.S. to undocumented immigrants. It was previously frozen by courts. Judges called it blatantly unconstitutional. But now, thanks to this Supreme Court ruling, that block no longer holds in 28 states. Meaning if a child is born today in Arizona, that baby might not be a U.S. citizen. But if that same child were born just across the border in California, they would be. Let that sink in. This isn't some minor tweak. Birthright citizenship has been guaranteed since 1868, right after the Civil War. It's written directly into the 14th Amendment. And the Supreme Court confirmed it again in 1898 in a case protecting the children of Chinese immigrants. It's been ironclad till now. Previously, nationwide injunctions stopped Trump's order dead in its tracks. But with those gone, citizenship now depends on whether your state was part of the original lawsuit. Imagine being a parent in Texas or Florida and not knowing whether your newborn is actually a citizen. That's not a hypothetical. That's real, right now. And here's the kicker, this doesn't stop at immigration. This ruling opens the floodgates for executive orders that were previously blocked, policies that affect voting rights. Think stricter voter ID laws, education, restrictions on diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, healthcare, changes that could limit access depending on your state, federal funding. Entire programs could be defunded if they clash with the administration's goals. And it means those policies can now go into effect before courts finish deciding whether they're even legal. Supporters of the ruling say this is about restoring balance. They argue that one judge in one city shouldn't be able to block national policy for everyone. Even Trump called it a victory for the Constitution and the rule of law. But critics, including Justice Sonia Sotomayor, are sounding the alarm. In a rare and fiery oral dissent, she warned that this ruling threatens the rule of law. Her argument, if something violates the Constitution, it shouldn't be allowed in some states just because those states weren't part of the lawsuit. So the question becomes, what's more important, fairness or the structure of legal power? And this is where things get uncertain. Reporters asked the Trump administration how this change to birthright citizenship would actually work. Will hospitals check immigration status at birth? Will some babies be denied passports or social security numbers? The response: crickets, no answers. Meanwhile, nonprofits are preparing a flood of lawsuits. Legal experts warn that for the foreseeable future, your rights may depend entirely on where you live and how fast your state files a case. Look, maybe you're thinking, well, this doesn't affect me. I was born here. I'm fine. But here's the truth. This ruling changes how power works in the US. If a voter ID law passes tomorrow that makes it harder for certain people to vote, this ruling makes it much harder to block that law nationwide. If a healthcare policy limits coverage in your area, good luck stopping it quickly. If funding is stripped from schools or programs your family depends on, courts might not be able to stop it in time. This is about the rules of the game, and those rules just changed. This ruling didn't end the fight over birthright citizenship. Not even close, but it did change the battleground. The question now is who wins, and how far will this go? Because what happens next might just change everything. Make sure you're subscribed. We're going to be following every twist, every legal battle, and every surprise that's coming next.